Thrive. The third metric to redefining success and creating a life of well-being, wisdom, and wonder. Arianna Huffington. Giving. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted, and behold, service was joy. Rabindranath Tagore. Widening the boundaries of our caring. What are we going to do this weekend? Well-being, wisdom, wonder, all are critical to redefining success and thriving, but they are incomplete without the fourth element of the third metric, giving. Giving, loving, caring, empathy, and compassion, going beyond ourselves and stepping out of our comfort zones to help serve others. This is the only viable answer to the multitude of the problems the world is facing. If well-being, wisdom, and wonder are our response to a personal wake-up call, service naturally follows as the response to the wake-up call for humanity. We are in the midst of multiple crises: economic, environmental, and social, and we cannot wait for a leader to ride in on a white horse to save us. We all need to find the leader in the mirror and take the steps needed to make a difference, both in our own communities and at the other end of the world. What makes service so powerful is that its benefits go two ways. When my younger daughter, Isabella, was 5 years old, we were living in Washington, D.C. One day, we were volunteering at Children of Mine, a center for children in need in Anacostia, a struggling part of town. The day before, we had celebrated Isabella's 5th birthday with a mermaid cake, presents, balloons, and a birthday party. By coincidence, at the center that day there was a little girl also having her 5th birthday. This little girl's entire birthday celebration consisted of a chocolate chip cookie with a candle. The cookie served as both her birthday cake and her only gift. I remember watching my daughter from across the room, her eyes welling with tears. Something clicked for her, something that I could not have taught her. When we returned home, Isabella rushed to her room, collected all the presents she had gotten for her birthday, and told me that she wanted to take them to the little girl. Now, it's not as if Isabella was suddenly transformed into Mother Teresa. She has had many moments of selfishness since then, but it was a profound moment nonetheless, whose impact will always be with her. That's why I'm so passionate about families making volunteering together a regular part of their lives. I dream of a day when families look at their weekend plans and say, "What are we going to do this weekend? Are we going to shop, see a movie, volunteer?" A day when volunteering is just a natural thing, not something exceptional or something that makes us feel particularly noble. Just something that we do. Something that connects us with one another. It is the only way we, as individuals, will ultimately make a real difference in the lives of millions of children who are homeless, hungry, or living in inner cities where random violence is a daily occurrence. That little girl in Anacostia is one of more than 16 million kids in America living in poverty, in conditions that compromise their health, their school performance, and their chances for the future. And the problem is getting worse. The percentage of children living in low-income families in the United States went from 37% in 2000 to 45% in 2011. Until compassion and giving become part of our daily lives, these are statistics that we will continue to uncomfortably brush aside with world-weary explanations that offer no answers. The system is broken, or government has become too polarized to pass meaningful reform. Yes, there is a lot governments need to do, but we cannot just delegate our compassion to government and sit on the sidelines bemoaning the fact that it's not doing enough. From the depths of our compassion, we can free ourselves of all that limits our imagination about what is possible. It's the only way to counteract the excessive greed and narcissism that surround us. Since the cultivation of compassion is crucial for societies to thrive, it is very good news that new scientific studies confirm the claims of contemplative traditions that compassion can indeed be enhanced with meditation training. As a 2012 study at the University of Wisconsin concluded, compassion and altruism can be viewed as trainable skills rather than as stable traits. And 2013 study by researchers from Harvard University, Northeastern University, and Massachusetts General Hospital also found that meditation enhances compassionate responding, providing scientific credence to ancient Buddhist teachings that meditation increases spontaneous compassionate behavior. If these findings are taken as seriously as they should be, the impact on how we educate our children, live our lives, and solve collective problems will be nothing short of revolutionary. Evidence of the power of compassion is all around us. In the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, we saw many people who had lost their jobs turn around and offer their skills and talents to help others in need. In Philadelphia, for example, Cheryl Jacobs, a lawyer who had been laid off from a large firm, opened her own practice to help people avoid foreclosure. So service is not only about going to homeless shelters and food banks, vitally important as that is, and it's also about offering whatever special skills and talents and passions we have. And being of service can help people who've lost their jobs rebuild their own confidence and sense of purpose. When a friend of mine in Los Angeles lost her job early in the economic downturn, I suggested that as she was looking for another job, she might think about volunteering. And I offered to connect her with a place called Home, which offers education, art, and well-being programs to underserved youth in South Central Los Angeles. She thought I did not empathize enough with what she was going through. I asked her to trust me, simply give a few hours a week while she was looking for a job, and just see what happens. She did, and she immediately started feeling much better about herself as she came out of the fog she'd been in after not having a job for the first time in her adult life. She also found herself exposed to a whole other world. She shared her experience going through a self-awareness seminar with others at a place called Home. She found herself sitting in a circle, forgiving her daughter for forgetting her birthday, while someone next to her was forgiving her mother for shooting her father. And she realized what separate but parallel lives we're living, which only further feeds our self-absorption. She saw firsthand that what people who are struggling economically need, as well as money, food, clothing, and material necessities, is to feel that someone cares. To feel the intimacy of brothers, wrote Pablo Neruda, is a marvelous thing in life. To feel the love of people whom we love is a fire that feeds our life. But to feel affection that comes from those whom we do not know, from those unknown to us, who are watching over our sleep and solitude, over our dangers and our weaknesses, that is something still greater and more beautiful, because it widens out the boundaries of our being and unites all living things. And that's really what we are engaged in when we are engaged in service and volunteering, widening the boundaries of our being. It shouldn't take a natural disaster for us to tap into our natural humanity. Jacqueline Novogratz, the founder of the Acumen Fund, a non-profit devoted to tackling poverty around the world, and a heroine of mine, tells a beautiful story that demonstrates how connected we all are. Our actions and inaction touch people every day. People we may never know and never meet, she says. Her story centers on a blue sweater. It was given to her by her Uncle Ed when she was 12. I loved that soft wool sweater with its striped sleeves and African motif. 2 zebras in front of a snow-capped mountain across the front, she says. She even wrote her name on the tag. But in her freshman year of high school, her classmates turned out not to be as enamored of the sweater and kept mocking her for it. So she donated it to Goodwill. 11 years later, she was jogging in Kigali, Rwanda, where she was working to set up a microfinance program for poor women. Suddenly, she spotted a little boy wearing a similar sweater. Could it be? She sprinted over to him and checked out the tag. Yep, there was her name. A coincidence that served to remind Jacqueline and the rest of us of the threads of our connection to one another. Hurricane response is another reminder of how connected we all are. When Superstorm Sandy struck during the heat of the 2012 presidential campaign, it didn't just knock the campaign off the front pages, it transformed it as well. Suddenly, the artificial walls that our political process erects to separate us into little demographic microgroups to make us believe that we have no mutual interests were blown away. At a moment of extreme polarization, Mother Nature brought us together. The collective recovery effort, the "we're all in this together" spirit, was great to see. We know that spirit is always there. After every disaster, natural or man-made, Whether Hurricane Sandy or the Haiti earthquake or the Newtown shooting, we hear again and again how the disaster brought out the best in us. But it shouldn't take a natural disaster to make us tap into our natural humanity. After all, we know that there are people desperately in need all the time, in every community, in every country, even when it's not on the front pages. 2,000 children under the age of 5 die every day from diseases that could have been prevented with clean water and proper sanitation. 3 million children die every year from poor nutrition, and 1.4 million from diseases that could be prevented by vaccination. So how can we sustain all year round the best self-spirit that comes forward during natural disasters? How can we make it a part of our lives so it becomes as natural as breathing? In very real ways, the need to take care of our planet and those who are hurting, and the need to build our inner resilience and spiritual infrastructure are connected. It is something I found myself thinking about by candlelight each night for nearly a week after Hurricane Sandy, when the electricity was out, and I was forced to disconnect from the day-to-day minutiae that I would have ordinarily considered important. It's amazing how quickly one's priorities get completely reordered when the power goes out. Not having much ability to connect with my outer world, I decided to embrace the moment and connect with my inner one. Many of the things that I thought at first were indispensable, I barely missed after a week. A famous passage from Matthew particularly spoke to me. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash. Building our home upon a rock is about much more than protecting us from devastating storms. It's about building and maintaining our spiritual infrastructure and resilience every day. And to keep our inner world strong, it's essential that we reach out to our outer world through compassion and giving. Watching Oprah Winfrey interview Diana Nyad on Super Soul Sunday, I was struck by a story the distant swimmer told about community. A man on the street where she lives lost his wife and was left to both earn a living and take care of his young family. Another neighbor, who already worked 2 jobs, took it upon herself to organize everyone in the neighborhood to rally around and help. So Diana got a note that said, "Diana, you've got to deliver dinner to that guy every other Wednesday night. If you can't do it, get somebody else to do it. We've got to help." What I love about that story is that it exemplifies making our giving instinct a part of our everyday lives. So often we think of giving as donating time or money to relief efforts for catastrophes in faraway places, helping people who have nothing. And that's obviously critical to do when disaster strikes. But we forget that every day we are surrounded by opportunities to act on that same instinct for giving. These chances are always underfoot. As the 19th century naturalist John Burroughs put it, "The great opportunity is where you are. Do not despise your own place and hour. Every place is under the stars. Every place is the center of the world." On the question of his own enlightenment, the master always remained reticent, even though the disciples tried every means to get him to talk. All the information they had on this subject was what the master once said to his youngest son, who wanted to know what his father felt when he became enlightened. The answer was, "A fool." When the boy asked why, the master had replied, "Well, son, it was like going to great pains to break into a house by climbing a ladder and smashing a window, and realizing later that the door of the house was open." Anthony DeMello. And every place is full of openings to make a real difference in the life of another human being. There are millions of small missed opportunities at home, in our offices, on the subway, on the street where we live, in the grocery store. What David Foster Wallace called being able truly to care about other people over and over in myriad petty, unsexy ways every day. When we flex our giving muscles every day, the process begins to transform our own lives. Because however successful we are, when we go out in the world to get things, when we strive to achieve a goal, we are operating from a perceived deficit, focused on what we don't have and are trying to obtain, until the goal is achieved. And then we go after the next goal. But when we give however little or much we have, we are tapping into our sense of abundance and overflow. When I was growing up in Athens, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment and had little money. But my mother was a magical improviser. She was always able to conjure up what we needed, including a good education and healthy food. She only owned 2 dresses and never spent anything on herself. I remember her selling her last pair of little gold earrings. She borrowed from anyone she could so that her 2 daughters could go to college. And no matter how little we had, she never failed to give to others with even less, and to make us feel that we were bigger than our circumstances. It may be somewhat counterintuitive, but it is gravity that enables us to stand tall. That which seems to pull us down to earth and limit us actually enables us to expand upward. In the same way, it is when we give that we feel most abundant. Giving sends a message to the universe that we have all we need. We become virtuous by the practice of virtue, responsible by the practice of responsibility, generous by the practice of generosity, compassionate by the practice of compassion, and we become abundant by giving to others. Giving and service mark the path to a world in which we are no longer strangers and alone, but members of a vast yet tightly knit family. From everyone to whom much is given, much shall be required, is the biblical admonition at the heart of the good life. The Bible goes even further and tells us that we'll be judged by what we do for the least among us. The Bhagavad Gita draws attention to 3 different kinds of life: a life of inertia and dullness with no goals and achievement, a life full of action, busyness, and desire, and a life of goodness, which is not just about ourselves, but about others. Through selfless service, you will always be fruitful and find the fulfillment of your desires. This is the promise of the Creator, according to the Gita. The second life, which is how we have been defining success, is obviously a big improvement on the first, but by itself it becomes driven by a hunger for more that's never satisfied, and we become disconnected from who we truly are and the riches inside us. What living the third kind of life and making a difference in the life of even one other human being means is perfectly expressed in this story by Rabbi David Wolpe. My paternal grandfather died when my father was 11 years old. His mother was a widow at 34 and he, an only child, bore much of his grief alone. In accordance with traditional Jewish practice, he began to walk very early to synagogue each morning to say prayers in his father's memory, a practice lasting for a year after a parent's death. At the end of his first week, he noticed that the ritual director of the synagogue, Mr. Einstein, walked past his home just as he left to walk to synagogue. Mr. Einstein, already advanced in years, explained, "Your home is on the way to the synagogue. I thought it might be fun to have some company. That way, I don't have to walk alone." For a year, my father and Mr. Einstein walked through the New England seasons, the humidity of summer and the snow of winter. They talked about life and loss, and for a while, my father was not so alone. After my parents married and my oldest brother was born, my father called Mr. Einstein, now well into his 90s, and asked if he could meet my father's new wife and child. Mr. Einstein agreed, but said that in view of his age, my father would have to come to him. My father writes, "The journey was long and complicated. His home, by car, was fully 20 minutes away. I drove in tears as I realized what he had done. He had walked for an hour to my home so that I would not have to be alone each morning. By the simplest of gestures, the act of caring, he took a frightened child, and he led him with confidence and with faith back into life. Go-getters are good. Go-givers are better." Imagine how our culture, how our lives will change when we begin valuing go-givers as much as we value go-getters. Social entrepreneurs are classic go-givers. They build their work on a foundation of adding value to people's lives. Bill Drayton coined the term social entrepreneur to describe individuals who combine the practical gifts of a business entrepreneur with the compassionate goals of a social reformer. He came up with the term as a college student after taking a trip to India to witness a man named Vinoba Bhave lead the effort to peacefully redistribute 7 million acres of land across India to his most destitute compatriots. Today, Drayton leads Ashoka, the largest network of social entrepreneurs worldwide. Sally Osberg, CEO of the Skoll Foundation, is at the forefront both of investing in some of the most game-changing social entrepreneurs across the globe and of rethinking how we carry out business, construct and hold our governments accountable, tap and replenish natural resources, how we survive and thrive together. At the Huffington Post, we are collaborating with the Skoll Foundation to create a new model for giving in the digital era, based on our belief that media organizations have a responsibility to spotlight the work of social entrepreneurs and nonprofits so that we can accelerate scaling and replicating what is working. In 2013, we launched 3 projects together: Job Raising, Raise for Women, and the Social Entrepreneurs Challenge. That raised more than $6 million and empowered our readers to donate to specific causes, as well as to blog about the stories of the people being helped and those giving. Even in everyday business dealings, giving is becoming an increasingly valuable coin. As author and entrepreneur Seth Godin put it, the irony of getting in return for giving is that it doesn't work nearly as well as merely giving. Bloggers who measure the return on investment of every word, Twitterers who view the platform as a self-promotional tool instead of a help others tool, and those that won't contribute to Wikipedia and other projects because there's no upside, these folks are all missing the point. It's not that difficult to figure out who's part of the online community for the right reasons. We can see it in your writing and in your actions. And those are the people we listen to and trust. Which, of course, paradoxically, means that these are the people we'll choose to do business with. Philosophers have long known that our well-being is deeply connected to our compassion and giving. No one can live happily who has regard for himself alone and transforms everything into a question of his own utility, wrote Seneca in AD 63. As a more modern-day philosopher, David Letterman said in AD 2013, "I have found that the only thing that does bring you happiness is doing something good for somebody who is incapable of doing it for themselves." You know? In practically every religious tradition and practice, giving of oneself is a key step on the path to spiritual fulfillment. Or, as Einstein put it, only a life lived for others is the life worthwhile. Since Einstein, theoretical physicists have been trying to come up with a theory of everything that would explain our entire physical world by reconciling general relativity with quantum physics. If there were an analogous theory of everything in the study of our emotional universe, empathy and giving would be at the center of it. Modern science has overwhelmingly confirmed the wisdom of those early philosophers and religious traditions. Empathy, compassion, and giving, which is simply empathy and compassion in action, are the molecular building blocks of our being. With them, we expand and thrive. Without them, we wither. Science has, in fact, broken this down on the biological level. A crucial component is the hormone oxytocin. It is known as the love hormone and is released naturally in our bodies during experiences such as childbirth, falling in love, and sex. Researchers have found that giving people oxytocin can lower their anxiety and mitigate shyness. In a study by neuroscientist Paul Zak, a squirt of oxytocin into the nose increased the amount of money participants offered one another. Oxytocin in particular, Zak said, promotes empathy, and when the chemical is inhibited in someone, they become more prone to sinful or selfish behavior. Oxytocin, the love hormone, is in a constant battle in our bodies with cortisol, the stress hormone. Of course, we can never completely eliminate stress from our lives, but nurturing our natural empathy is a great way to reduce it and protect ourselves from its effects. Of course, there are different kinds of empathy and compassion, and some are more beneficial to us than others. As professor of psychiatry Richard Davidson told me, oxytocin increases the compassion towards one's family and the groups one identifies with, as opposed to the higher level of universal compassion. And psychologist Paul Ekman has identified 3 kinds of empathy. First, there's cognitive empathy, which is knowing how someone else is feeling or thinking. But simply understanding another's position doesn't mean we've internalized what they're feeling. So there's also emotional empathy, in which we actually feel what another person is feeling. This is triggered by so-called mirror neurons. Given the amount of suffering we're so frequently exposed to, it would be too draining to live in a constant state of emotional empathy. This can make emotional empathy seem futile, writes Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence. But there's a third type, compassionate empathy, in which we know how a person is feeling. We can feel their feelings along with them, and we're moved to act. Compassionate empathy is a skill we can nurture and one that leads to action. And this is the kind of empathy we're fueled by when we're giving back. But even the term giving back can be misleading. It implies that service and volunteering are unimportant only in terms of what they do for the recipient or the community. Just as important is what they do for the giver or volunteer, and the science on this is unambiguous. Essentially, giving is a miracle drug, with no side effects, for health and well-being. One study demonstrated that volunteering at least once a week yields improvements to well-being, tantamount to your salary increasing from $20,000 to $75,000. A Harvard Business School study showed that donating to charity has a similar relationship to subjective well-being as a doubling of household income. This is the case in poor countries and rich countries alike. And the same study found that students who were told to spend a small amount of money on someone else were happier than students who were told to spend it on themselves. Indeed, we're so wired to give that our genes reward us for giving, and punish us when we don't. A study by scientists from the University of North Carolina and UCLA found that participants whose happiness was mostly hedonic, that is, focused on self-gratification, had high levels of biological markers that promote inflammation, which is in turn linked to diabetes, cancer, and other conditions. Those whose happiness included service to others had health profiles showing reduced levels of these markers. Of course, we all experience a mixture of both kinds of happiness, but our body's internal systems are subtly pushing for us to augment the kind based on giving. Our bodies know what we need to do to make us healthy and happy, even if our minds don't always hear the message. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. The Gospel of Thomas. Many other studies show the positive health boost provided by giving. A 2013 study led by Dr. Suzanne Richards of the University of Exeter Medical School found that volunteering was connected to lower rates of depression, higher reports of well-being, and a significant reduction in mortality risk. And a 2005 Stanford study found that those who volunteer live longer than those who don't. Science proves love grows brains. The effects of giving as we age are especially dramatic. A study from Duke University and the University of Texas at Austin found that senior citizens who volunteered had significantly lower rates of depression than non-volunteers. And a Johns Hopkins study found that volunteering seniors were more likely to engage in brain-building activities that lower the risk of Alzheimer's disease. Those who have suffered the loss of their defining roles as parents or wage earners are able to regain a sense of purpose in their lives. Studies of the effects of giving in the workplace are equally dramatic and show the impact of volunteering on creating a healthier, more creative, and collaborative workforce. At AOL and the Huffington Post, we offer our employees 3 paid volunteer days each year to serve in their communities, and we match up to $250 a year of charitable contributions per employee. A 2013 study by United Health Group found that employee volunteer programs increased engagement and productivity. Among the study's other findings, more than 75% of the employees who had volunteered said they felt healthier. More than 90% said volunteering had put them in a better mood. More than 75% reported experiencing less stress. More than 95% said that volunteering enriched their sense of purpose in life, which in turn has been found to strengthen immune function. Employees who volunteered reported improv ed time management skills and enhanced ability to connect with peers. Another 2013 study, this one by researchers at the University of Wisconsin, found that employees who give back are more likely to assist their colleagues, more committed to their work, and less likely to quit. Our findings make a simple but profound point about altruism. Helping others makes us happier, says Donald Moynihan, one of the study's authors. Altruism is not a form of martyrdom, but operates for many as part of a healthy psychological reward system. It is a reward system that should be incorporated into how we think about healthcare. If you want to live a longer, happier, and healthier life, take all the usual precautions that your doctor recommends, says Sarah Conrath of the University of Michigan. and then get out there and share your time with those who need it. That's the caring cure. Givers also end up getting ahead at work. Nice guys don't finish last. In his best-selling book Give and Take, Wharton professor Adam Grant cites studies that show that those who give their time and effort to others end up achieving more success than those who don't. Salespeople with the highest annual revenue are those who are the most motivated to help their customers and coworkers. The engineers with the highest productivity and fewest errors are those who do more favors for colleagues than they receive. The highest achieving negotiators are those who focus not only on their own goals, but also on helping their counterparts succeed. Grant also cites research indicating that companies led by CEOs who are takers end up having more fluctuating volatile returns. CEOs who are givers identify their company's goals as going beyond short-term profits. Starbucks, under the leadership of Howard Schultz, for instance, not only instituted Create Jobs for USA, a job creation initiative that has raised over $15 million and created and sustained more than 5,000 jobs, but the company also sponsored more than 1 million hours of community service by employees and customers over the past 2 years. Schultz explained that behind these policies lies his belief that profitability is a shallow goal if it doesn't have a greater purpose behind it. For Schultz, that purpose is to drive performance through the lens of humanity by delivering value to shareholders while simultaneously sharing the company's success, reaching out to the communities it serves, and consistently delighting its customers. In 2013, during the shutdown of the U.S. government, customers who bought a beverage for someone else were rewarded with a free brewed coffee in return. In a letter to Starbucks employees, Schultz wrote, "Every day in our stores, we bear witness to small acts of human kindness that reflect the generosity of spirit at the core of our guiding principles. Most often, these are the little gestures that best embody our commitment to our communities and our care for our customers and one another." Given the unmistakable benefits of putting empathy into action, how do we strengthen that impulse? And how do we pass it on to our kids? Parents are constantly thinking about how to help their children succeed in life, earn a good salary, advance in their profession, or simply be happy. But it's just as important to pass down a rich capacity for compassion, especially if we really want them to be happy. This is all the more true in a world where we are beset on all sides by technological distractions and the lure of ersatz connections that can disrupt our pathways of empathy. A 2010 San Diego State University study found a 5-fold increase in depression among children in the United States since the 1930s. To teach children about emotional literacy and empathy, Mary Gordon, a former kindergarten teacher and an Ashoka Fellow, founded Roots of Empathy. She believes empathy is best nurtured by example. Love grows brains, Gordon says. We need to show children a picture of love as we raise them. Learning is relational, and empathy is constructed, not instructed. The baby reflects the emotional state of the parents. In her program, classrooms adopt a baby and carefully observe and try to determine what the baby is trying to tell them through the sounds it makes. Instructors educate students on how to recognize the baby's emotions through these physical cues, and in turn, the students learn to explore their own emotions. Spending time mindful of how a baby communicates deepens students' understanding not only of the patience and love needed to parent a child properly, but also of the kind of attention and connection necessary to develop empathy. It's not enough to tell our children about empathy. We have to show them, which means, of course, that we have to demonstrate it ourselves. Parents teach empathy the same way they help their children learn to talk. Of course, not everybody is blessed with parents who model empathy. But fortunately, the effects of growing up in a family that is not rich in empathy can be reversed. It's never too late to transcend our childhoods. Any entry point of giving and service can lead to benefits for our well-being and for our community. Bill Drayton emphasizes that empathy is an increasingly important resource for dealing with the exponential rate of change we are experiencing. The speed at which the future comes upon us, faster and faster, the kaleidoscope of constant change contexts, he says, requires the foundational skill of cognitive empathy. And the best way to build that internal foundation is to reach out to others. Compassion and giving don't have to involve getting on a plane to build houses or teach school in a remote part of the world. It may involve helping people across town or helping your neighbors. And it doesn't just mean giving money. As Laura Arrillaga Andreessen put it in her book, Giving 2.0, Transform Your Giving and Our World, it may involve donating skills in areas such as strategic planning, management, human resources, marketing, design, or IT to nonprofits in need of those skills, as the Taproot Foundation does. Press 1 to donate. Technology meets philanthropy. Today's technology has leveled the giving playing field. Dennis Whittle, founder of Global Giving, says technology has the potential to make all donors equal in the eyes of philanthropy and turn us all into ordinary Oprahs. If you have $10 or $100 or $1,000, he says, you can come online, find a school in Africa to support, and you can get updates from the field to get responses to your support. Social media helped make Giving Tuesday, which now follows Black Friday and Cyber Monday, a huge success. In 2013, Giving Tuesday brought together well over 10,000 nonprofit, institutional, and corporate partners from around the world. Social media influencers from the White House to Bill Gates spread the word to their followers, and Giving Tuesday was featured all day on the Google homepage. HuffPost joined media organizations, including the Wall Street Journal and CNN, in featuring articles and blogs. There was a 90% increase in online giving compared to the inaugural Giving Tuesday in 2012, with an average donation of $142.05. The city of Baltimore raised more than $5 million. The United Methodist Church raised over $6 million. But giving wasn't just limited to big cities and churches. On the local level, for instance, the Second Harvest Food Bank of Central Florida reached its $10,000 goal by 9 a.m. and decided to double its goal. The Bethesda Mission in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which expected to raise $400, raised $2,320 in online donations. And though Giving Tuesday comes 5 days after the American celebration of Thanksgiving, its partners included international organizations ranging from the Galapagos Conservancy to the Girls Empowerment Project of Kenya to the Goodwill Social Work Center in Madurai, India, to 10 Feet in Guatemala. Of course, giving can be as simple as giving joy to others, sharing our talents and skills to help them tap into their own ability to experience wonder. Improv Everywhere, in collaboration with Carnegie Hall, set up an empty podium on the streets of New York in front of an orchestra with the sign "Conduct Us," allowing bystanders to conduct some of the most talented young musicians in the world. The musicians responded to the amateur conductors and altered their tempo and performance accordingly. Monica Yunus and Camille Zamora, who met while studying singing at Juilliard, founded Sing for Hope to share their love of music with their community. They have been planting dozens of pop-up pianos in the middle of parks and street corners in New York City so passers-by can play music or simply listen to it and build connections with strangers they would have otherwise silently passed by on the street. This D. Robert Egger took the skills he honed from running music clubs to found the DC Central Kitchen, which redirects leftover food from local businesses and farms, prepares the food in kitchens that employ the homeless, and then delivers it to feed the needy. He is now working to launch the LA Kitchen. My attitude, Egger says, is that food isn't just gasoline for the body. Food is community. We tend to identify creativity with artists and inventors, but in fact, creativity is in each and every one of us, as David Kelly, the founder of the world-famous design firm IDEO and the D. School at Stanford University, writes in Creative Confidence, a book he co-authored with his brother Tom. We simply need to claim it back and share it. We are too quick to censor or judge our natural creative impulses as not being good enough. But we need to give ourselves permission to follow what makes us feel most alive. And when we are most alive, we are most compassionate and vice versa. If you love to sing, sing. You don't have to sing in a choir or become a soloist. If you love to write poems or short stories, write them. You don't have to become a published author. If you love to paint, paint. Don't squash your creative instincts because you're not good enough to turn what you love to do into a career. As David and Tom Kelly write, when a child loses confidence in his or her creativity, the impact can be profound. people start to separate the world into those who are creative and those who are not. They come to see these categories as fixed, forgetting that they too once loved to draw and tell imaginative stories. Too often, they opt out of being creative. Every man, when he gets quiet, when he becomes desperately honest with himself, is capable of uttering profound truths. We all derive from the same source. There is no mystery about the origin of things. We are all part of creation, all kings, all poets, all musicians. We have only to open up, to discover what is already there. Henry Miller. A friend of mine has a ritual. He writes a poem every day with his morning coffee. It centers me, he says, and then I ride that wave during the day. It helps me stay connected. My sister graduated from the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, with many awards and accolades. But after years of auditions and not getting the parts she hoped to get, she began to feel lost and discouraged. In her book Unbinding the Heart, she describes a moment of epiphany on a New York bus. After auditioning for a 6-hour play adaptation of many Greek tragedies combined, and not getting a part, not even in the chorus, disappointed and distraught, I got on the bus to go to my singing lesson on the Upper West Side when I started to notice the faces of the other passengers. Each one of them looked burdened, their worries the only thing showing in their expressions. As I looked at everyone around me, I was filled with compassion and the understanding that their disappointments were probably much bigger than mine. If only I could bring some joy onto this bus, I thought. And then I realized that I could. I could act right here. I could entertain these people for a brief moment. I could do a song and dance right here and now. And with that thought, I broke down the barriers. I reached out to the woman next to me, struck a conversation, and asked her if she liked the theater. We started talking about our favorite plays and characters, and I told her that I had just performed the part of Saint Joan for an audition. She knew the play, and we had an unexpectedly wonderful conversation. In my enthusiasm, I said to her, "Would you like me to do Joan's monologue for you?" "I would love that," she replied. The first words of the monologue are, "You promised me my life, but you lied. You think that life is nothing but not being stone dead." As I said the words, the woman's face started to change. I could see that she was being touched. I was being touched as well, sharing my talent for a moment on a New York bus. By the time I finished, the woman on the bus had tears in her eyes. As she got off at her stop, she thanked me. I felt elated. I felt a release, as if a door had opened that I didn't even know was there. Here I was, thinking that I had this wonderful gift that was not being recognized by the world. And then it dawned on me how many conditions I had put on my gift. That movement of sharing without an agenda of getting a part wasn't about the outcome, but about the joy of touching others and giving unconditionally what was mine to give. And that brought with it a tremendous sense of fulfillment. Your gift may simply be making a beautiful meal for someone down the street who is sick or has suffered a loss. The phrase, "to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived," crystallizes giving. The day before she died, Scott Simon's mother had a message for the hundreds of thousands of people who were following his live blog about her journey towards death. July 28th, 2:01 p.m. I think she wants me to pass along a couple of pieces of advice ASAP. 1. Reach out to someone who seems lonely today. Technology has made it possible for us to live in a self-contained, disconnected bubble 24 hours a day, even while walking down the street listening to music on our smartphones. Our devices might seem like they're connecting us, and they do to a degree, but they're also disconnecting us from the world around us. And without being connected to the people we encounter, it's hard to activate our hardwired instinct for empathy. Millennials, the first generation that's truly native to the digital world, unlike those of us who are digital immigrants, who come to this moment from the land of the analog, will most likely be the ones to figure out how to manage the influence of technology and use it to amplify rather than diminish their capacity for empathy. John Bridgeland, co-chair of the Franklin Project, a national service movement, believes millennials could rescue the civic health of our nation after decades of decline. Recent studies corroborate his sentiments. Millennials lead the way in volunteering, with 43% of them engaging in service. The numbers are even higher among college students. 53% have volunteered in the past year, and over 40% of them volunteer more than once a month. What if that desire to connect and give back could be scaled up and institutionalized? That's the goal of the Franklin Project, to establish national service as a common expectation and common opportunity for all Americans to strengthen our social fabric and solve our most pressing national challenges. Think of it as the ultimate shovel-ready infrastructure project, one that can literally help to rebuild our country from the inside out. It taps into the incredible outpouring of community and compassion we experienced after 9/11. A yearning to rebuild not just what had physically been destroyed, but to rebuild a spirit of community and service that had been eroding for decades. It's an idea that is at the heart of the founding of this country, connected to the very pursuit of happiness described in the Declaration of Independence. When Thomas Jefferson expressed our right to the pursuit of happiness, he was not simply referring to the right to pursue personal, momentary pleasure, fueled by a culture of material goods. The happiness he was referring to was the right to build our life within a strong and vibrant community. Throughout our history, the spirit of giving, of service, and of civic engagement helped build a country of disparate parts and races and languages, and has continued to bring us closer to a more perfect union. The fading of that spirit is behind the feeling so many Americans have that the country is breaking apart, hopelessly polarized, and no longer indivisible. Every U.S. president, with the exception of William Henry Harrison, who died a month after taking office, having given the longest inaugural address in history, has recognized the importance of this connective tissue and made an effort to reinforce it in one way or another. FDR created the Civilian Conservation Corps, which led to 3 million unemployed young people working on public lands across the country. JFK launched the Peace Corps. George H.W. Bush started the Daily Point of Light Award, which inspired the Points of Light Foundation, and Bill Clinton created AmeriCorps. Ray Chambers, Points of Light's founding chairman, who invited me to join its board in the early 90s, has been for me a model for redefining success and prioritizing service and giving. After achieving success in business, instead of being content to simply amass wealth and power, he turned his remarkable skills and passion toward finding solutions to problems all over the world, from funding college education for hundreds of students in Newark, New Jersey, to founding Malaria No More and serving as the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy for financing the Health Millennium Development Goals. He has even put his mind, skills, and connections to work, solving an overlooked problem that is affecting millions of young people. Moved by watching children in the urban programs he supports drop out and become physically and emotionally scarred because of acne, something I've experienced in my own family, as Isabella suffered from acne as a teenager. He's an example of private sector leadership at its best. Clearly, there's a hunger in the world to serve, and the millennials are leading the way in large numbers. A robust national service program would help both to bring down the unacceptably high youth unemployment rate and give them a clear sense of purpose. Our generation wants to push and dream for something big. Matthew Siegel, co-founder of Our Time, a national advocacy group for young people, said, "And few policies make more sense than allowing idealistic young Americans to serve their country via nursing, teaching, disaster relief, park restoration, and infrastructure repair." And in Appendix C, you'll find some of my favorite sites connecting you to volunteering opportunities in your community and around the world. So what is it going to take to transform service from something people do around Thanksgiving or Christmas, from something people talk about at commencement addresses, to an everyday reality? As Dr. Irvin Staub, who studied men and women who risked their lives during World War II to protect Jews hiding from the Nazis, put it, goodness like evil often begins in small steps. Heroes evolve. They aren't born. Very often, the rescuers made only a small commitment at the start, to hide someone for a day or two. But once they had taken that step, they began to see themselves differently, as someone who helps. What starts as mere willingness becomes intense involvement. Yaya lessons in giving. It's not a trade, darling, it's an offering. I was blessed to have a mother who was incapable of having an impersonal relationship with anyone. This doesn't mean my mother was perfect, but she did live in a constant giving mode. If the FedEx man arrived to drop off a package, my mom, or Yaya, as everyone called her, would have him come in, sit down at the kitchen table, offer him something to eat. If you went to the farmer's market with my mother, or to a department store, You'd better be prepared for a long discussion with the shop assistant or the farmer about their lives before she even got around to asking about something she wanted to buy. That intimacy with strangers, that empathy toward everyone she encountered was something I had been surrounded with since I was a little girl in Athens. Her life was filled with giving moments. Wherever she was, in an elevator, a taxi, an airplane, a parking lot, a supermarket, a bank, she would reach out to others. Once, a stranger admired the necklace she was wearing. My mother took it off and gave it to her. When the astonished woman asked, "What can I give you in return?" my mother said, "It's not a trade, darling, it's an offering." Toward the end of her life, she would always arrive at the doctor's office with a basket of fruit or a box of chocolates for the nurses. She knew that in an office where patients brought their anxiety and pain, the gesture would help change the atmosphere. Her tenacity in breaking through the barriers that people put up around their hearts was both enchanting and comical. If one of the nurses was, as she put it, on automatic, and didn't take the time to be friendly or personal, my mother would whisper to me, "This one doesn't want to budge," and would start looking for a way to give her extra attention. She might produce a little treat from her purse, a package of nuts, a special kind of chocolate, and give it to the woman, knowing she would get a smile. Giving was a way of being for her. When she died, my mother left no will and no prized possessions, which is not surprising, considering her habit of giving things away. I remember the time we tried to give her a second watch. Within 48 hours, she had given it to someone else. What she left us with is the treasure house of her spirit. It's as though certain gifts can be bequeathed only at one's death, that while she was alive, she so embodied the qualities of nurturing, giving, and unconditional loving that it felt as if those dimensions of life were taken care of for all those blessed to be in her orbit. Why learn how to cook when you live with the Iron Chef? After her death, it became much clearer to my sister and me that if our life's journey is to evolve as human beings, there's no faster way to do it than through giving and service. We mostly focus on the good giving does for others, the good it does for our community. But just as profound is what it does for us. Because it is really true that while we grow physically by what we get, we grow spiritually by what we give. Ever since I became a mother, I've been moved by the need to make volunteering and service part of children's lives from very early on. And I've seen the impact it had on my own children's lives. When one of my daughters was dealing with an eating disorder and started volunteering at a place called home, I saw how it began to change the way she saw herself, her own perception of her problems and difficulties. And there's nothing like putting your own problems in perspective. When you become involved in the lives of children for whom drive-by shootings are a regular occurrence, where 1 out of 3 fathers is in jail, and where there isn't enough to eat, it's much harder to worry about how you look, whether you're wearing the right clothes, whether you're pretty enough, and how thin you are. My daughter learned these lessons not by being lectured at, though I tried, but by absorbing them firsthand. See, the fire gets in the poker, too. People are already doing an enormous amount of good every day. So how do we put the spotlight on it? How do we help scale and replicate it until we achieve a critical mass? My dream in the 1990s was to create a new TV channel, a kind of C-SPAN 3, back when there was only C-SPAN covering Congress and C-SPAN 2 covering the Senate. So I put together a proposal to create C-SPAN 3 to cover what nonprofits, NGOs, and volunteers were doing 24/7 so that service could become part of our everyday reality, as much a part of the business of the country as the doings of the House and the Senate, and thus deserving of the same coverage. Well, my version of C-SPAN 3 didn't happen, but the internet did. And at the Huffington Post, we now have multiple sections: impact, good news, and what is working among them, covering the moving stories of people reaching beyond themselves to help others, sometimes right next to them, sometimes at the other end of the world. Just as important, we have the go-givers themselves tell their stories in text, in pictures, and in video. The magic happens when people respond to the stories by getting involved, by being inspired to move from observers to givers. The Reverend Henry Delaney spent a lifetime transforming crack houses in Savannah, Georgia. He said something to me that captures what happens with service. "I want to get people involved," he said. "It's like putting a poker in a fire. After a while, the fire gets in the poker too. And that's how we're going to get to a critical mass. To a physicist, a critical mass is the amount of radioactive material that must be present for a nuclear reaction to become self-sustaining. For the service movement, a critical mass is when the service habit hits enough people so that it can begin to spread spontaneously around the country and the world. Think of it as an outbreak of a positive infection, with everyone as a potential carrier. There are doors in space you look for, a friend told me once, and doors in time you wait for. We are facing such a door in time right now, an opening for great possibilities. The modern equivalent of the pre-Copernican vision of the world as flat has been our secular view of man as an exclusively material being. This error has dominated how we live our lives and what we consider success. But today, this is all changing. We have increasingly come to realize, partly due to the growing price we have been paying and partly due to new scientific findings, that there are other dimensions to living a truly successful life. And these dimensions, the 4 pillars of the third metric, impact everything we do and everything we are, from our health to our happiness. As a result, something as vast and epic as the destiny of humanity depends on something as intimate and personal as the shape of our individual lives, the way each one of us chooses to live, think, act, and give. Transforming our narcissistic habits and awakening our giving nature, which is what both the world and we ourselves need, is the work of a lifetime. But once again, it starts with small daily steps. And once again, our daily life is the ultimate training. If you told yourself that the goal is to write the great American novel, you might never begin. But you would be far more likely to begin if you told yourself to write 100 words a day. It's the same with transforming ourselves. 1. Make small gestures of kindness and giving a habit, and pay attention to how this affects your mind, your emotions, and your body. 2. During your day, make a personal connection with people you might normally tend to pass by and take for granted. The checkout clerk, the cleaning crew at your office or your hotel, the barista in the coffee shop. See how this helps you feel more alive and reconnected to the moment. 3. Use a skill or talent you have, cooking, accounting, decorating, to help someone who could benefit from it. It'll jumpstart your transition from a go-getter to a go-giver and reconnect you to the world and to the natural abundance in your own life. Epilogue. We have, if we're lucky, about 30,000 days to play the game of life. How we play it will be determined by what we value. Or, as David Foster Wallace put it, everybody worships. The only choice we get is what to worship. And the compelling reason for maybe choosing some sort of God or spiritual type thing to worship, be it JC or Allah, be it Yahweh or the Wiccan Mother Goddess, or the Four Noble Truths, or some inviolable set of ethical principles, is that pretty much anything else you worship will eat you alive. We now know through the latest scientific findings that if we worship money, we'll never feel truly abundant. If we worship power, recognition, and fame, we'll never feel we have enough. And if we live our lives madly rushing around trying to find and save time, we'll always find ourselves living in a time famine, frazzled and stressed. Onward, upward, and inward is how I ended my commencement speech at Smith. And in many ways, this book is bearing witness, both through my own experience and through the latest science, to the truth that we cannot thrive and lead the lives we want, as opposed to the lives we've settled for, without learning to go inward. My goal is for this book to chart another way forward, a way available to all of us right now, wherever we find ourselves. A way based on the timeless truth that life is shaped from the inside out. A truth that has been celebrated by spiritual teachers, poets, and philosophers throughout the ages, and has now been validated by modern science. I wanted to share my own personal journey, how I learned the hard way to step back from being so caught up in my busy life that life's mystery would pass me by. But it was also important to me to make it clear that this was not just one woman's journey. There's a collective longing to stop living in the shallows, to stop hurting our health and our relationships by striving so relentlessly after success as the world defines it, and instead tap into the riches, joy, and amazing possibilities that our lives embody. It doesn't matter what your entry point is or what form your wake-up call takes. It could be burnout, sickness, addiction, the loss of a loved one, the ending of a relationship, a line of poetry that stirs something ineffable in you. I've sprinkled plenty of those throughout the book. Or a scientific study about the power and benefits of slowing down, or sleep, or meditating, or mindfulness that speaks to you. I've scattered more than plenty of those throughout the book too. Whatever your entry point is, embrace it. You will find you have the wind at your back because that's what our times are calling for. And I hope I've shown that there are many tools in our inner toolbox to help us get back on track when we veer off. And we undoubtedly will, again and again. But remember that while the world provides plenty of insistent, flashing, high-volume signals directing us to make more money and climb higher up the ladder, there are almost no worldly signals reminding us to stay connected to the essence of who we are, to take care of ourselves along the way, to reach out to others, to pause to wonder, and to connect to that place from which everything is possible. To quote my Greek compatriot Archimedes again, "Give me a place to stand, and I will move the world." So find your place to stand, your place of wisdom and peace and strength, and from that place remake the world in your own image, according to your own definition of success, so that all of us, women and men, can thrive and live our lives with more grace, more joy, more compassion, more gratitude, and yes, more love, onward, upward, and inward. Appendices, Appendix A, the No Distraction. 12 tools, apps, and resources to help you stay focused. Steve Jobs said, "Focusing is about saying no." Here are some of my favorite tools that can help you maintain focus, filter out distractions, and say no. Assembled by our HuffPost Third Metric Features editor, Carolyn Gregoire. Antisocial. Social media anxiety disorder may not yet be recognized by the medical community, but as many of us know, it can feel very real. And it truly does have addictive qualities. In 2012, Harvard researchers found that sharing information about ourselves activates the same part of the brain associated with the pleasure we experience from eating food, receiving money, and having sex. If you have a hard time peeling yourself away from Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest during the workday, or during your leisure time for that matter, try Antisocial, a social network blocking software that allows you to avoid distracting sites. You can choose the times you don't want to be distracted and the sites you want to restrict. Available for $15 from anti-social.cc. Nanny. Like Antisocial, the Chrome extension. Nanny blocks distracting sites from your browser so that you can keep your mind on the task at hand. In addition to blocking specific URLs for set periods of time, such as restricting YouTube from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you can also set a limit for your browsing time on certain sites, so that, for example, you only give yourself 30 or 60 minutes total to spend on Facebook per day. Available for free, download from the Chrome Web Store. Controlled multi-tab browsing. Having 30 tabs open in a single window of Google's web browser, Chrome can be incredibly distracting, not to mention stress-inducing, and it could keep you jumping from one page to another without really focusing on any one task. Limit your tabs and keep your focus using Controlled Multi-Tab Browsing, a Chrome plugin. Set a maximum number of tabs, say 4 or 6, and the plugin will prevent you from opening any more than that set number until you're done. If you're a cyber loafer or an incorrigible multitasker, this tool can help you improve your productivity and focus on what you need to complete. Available for free, download from the Chrome Web Store. Siesta Text and BRB. The downside of unplugging and recharging is that you run the risk of being seen as ignoring friends and family. In our culture of constant connectivity, a 3-hour later response can be taken as a slight. The social norm is that you should respond within a couple of hours, if not immediately. David E. Meyer, University of Michigan psychology professor, told the New York Times in 2009, "If you don't, it is assumed you're out to lunch mentally, out of it socially, or don't like the person who sent the email." Now, there's an app for that. If you want to unplug from your email and texts without worrying that your friends and family will think you're ignoring them, set an away message on your mobile device using Siesta Text for Android or BRB for iPhone. Siesta features customizable away messages for both texts and calls. "I'm driving, text you back later," or "On vacation, will respond when I return next Monday." Store up to 20 messages and select specific recipients from your contacts to receive the away message. Siesta Text is available for Android. For 99 cents from Google Play, and BRB for iPhone is available for free. Download from the App Store. Self-control. The application. Self-control can keep your computer offline for preset blocks of time and can also temporarily stop incoming email. And even rebooting your computer won't bring the online distractions back. Or if there are certain sites that are particularly tempting, you can single them out for blacklisting. Available for free. For Mac, from selfcontrolapp.com. Rescue Time. Rescue Time presents you with a readout tracking your online activity at the end of each day. With greater awareness of how your time is being spent, you can set goals to spend only an hour checking email, for instance, and create alarms to go off when you've spent too much time on a particular site or activity, the online equivalent of staging an intervention. Available for free or $9 a month for the Pro version, for Mac at rescuetime.com. Also available for free on Android from Google Play. Freedom. You don't have to head off to a remote corner of the world to escape Wi-Fi. If you're a writer, freedom might just be your new best friend. Freedom completely blocks the internet from your computer for a set period of time so that checking social sites or getting sucked into Reddit or HuffPost simply isn't an option. If the internet is a big time drain for you, Freedom is a great way to eliminate the temptation. Available for $10 for Mac, Windows, and Android from macfreedom.com. Time out. Taking breaks is a scientifically backed way to help you focus and be more present. But so often we spend hours upon hours in front of a computer screen, pausing only to peruse Facebook or Twitter. If you have trouble remembering to take real breaks, try the Mac app Timeout, a tool that encourages you to stop what you're doing and get up at regular intervals. Timeout reminds you to take a 10-minute break every 50 minutes and a 10-second micro break, a brief pause to take a deep breath, look away from your screen, and recenter yourself every 10 minutes. Make your break even more effective by queuing up your most relaxing songs on iTunes to alert you to your upcoming break. Available for free for Mac from the App Store. Concentrate. Concentrate packs several different productivity tools into one. The Mac software allows you to designate various activities, studying, writing, etc., and then set your computer so that it will only allow certain actions during those times. For example, while in writing mode, you can set the software to block social networking sites while allowing you to access relevant documents and websites, set a timer for how long you'll be writing, and add a sound alert to remind you to come back to the task at hand if your mind has wandered. Available for $29 for Mac from getconcentrating.com. Digital Detox App. This app could revolutionize your vacations, or even your weekends. Using Digital Detox, you can force your phone to shut down for a set period of time, ranging from 30 minutes to 1 month, and no, the decision is not reversible. But the app comes with a disclaimer. Only those who are truly serious about unplugging need apply. Available for free for Android from Google Play. Isolator. If you have trouble tuning out desktop clutter and distractions, try Isolator, a menu bar app for Macs that hides desktop clutter and helps you tune out everything but the Word doc in front of you. This app is another great tool for anyone who needs to eliminate digital distractions while focusing on a project. It covers your desktop with a dark overlay so that your full attention is on the present task with an easy shortcut key to allow you to turn the focus feature on and off. Available for free for Mac at macupdate.com. Higbee. When you want to put away your email, camera, texts, and playlists in order to be fully present in the moment, whether you're concentrating on a task or being with friends, you might need a physical contraption, not just an app to do it. Enter Higbee, a rubber iPhone holder that covers up your phone's camera and headphone jack. It can also be used for 2 phones, with the rubber arms holding the devices together so that you can avoid both distractions. With our heads, our hearts, and our hands busy with so much digital input, we're losing the downtime we need to observe the world around us, nurture our relationships, and make new things, Higbee's creators wrote. Higbee will be available for iPhone from Wolf Olins later in 2014. Appendix B. Transcendent Toolbox, 12 tools, apps, and resources for meditation and mindfulness. Here are a dozen meditation and mindfulness tools to help you start or deepen your practice. Compiled by Carolyn Gregoire. Headspace. Former Buddhist monk Andy Puddicombe founded Headspace as a way to make mindfulness meditation easily available. Headspace's Take 10 starter program, 10 days worth of 10-minute meditations, is a simple, straightforward introduction to starting a meditation practice. Through short animated videos, the app breaks down the basic principles of meditation and mindfulness, and the recordings take beginners through brief mindfulness practices and guided meditations each day. There is now even a Headspace channel available for passengers on board Virgin Atlantic flights. Available for free, download for iPhone and Android at getsomeheadspace.com. Mark Williams's Mindfulness Meditation Recordings. Mark Williams, professor of clinical psychology, director of the Oxford Mindfulness Center, and author of Mindfulness, offers a range of free audio meditations for new and experienced meditators and includes instructions for a number of variations on the practice, including a 3-minute mini break, a meditation for depression, silent meditations with bells, and a fun chocolate meditation. We must get out of our heads and learn to experience the world directly, experientially, without the relentless commentary of our thoughts. Williams wrote in The Mindful Way Through Depression, we might just open ourselves up to the limitless possibilities for happiness that life has to offer us. Available for free at franticworld.com. Buddhify. Touted as the urban meditation app, Buddhify offers a fun, gamified approach to creating a meditation practice. Buddhify uses bright graphics and simple language, no Sanskrit or mention of chakras, and is designed to be used on the go. The app has different settings like home, traveling, walking, and gym, offering audio and video meditations suited to wherever you are. Buddhify actually changes one's life in big little ways, wrote one user. It's the Google Maps of the interior world. Available for free, download for iPhone and Android. Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness. Online meditation classes. The Movement of Spiritual Inner Awareness, founded by John Roger, offers a 12-lesson online course on meditation and spiritual exercises for beginners consisting of readings, audio, and video. MSIA's teachings consist of active meditations or spiritual exercises, with an emphasis on connecting with our inner source of wisdom and peace. The step-by-step guides include instruction on using a mantra, keeping a journal, and meditative breathing. Available for free on messiah.org. Chopra Center Meditation Podcast. Deepak Chopra's Chopra Center for Well-Being offers many resources for aspiring and experienced meditators, including a collection of 24 free meditation podcasts. The podcasts include inspiring talks and audio meditations for releasing stress, healing, gratitude, self-empowerment, and more. Download the podcasts on iTunes and listen to them at home, during your commute, or while out on a walk to bring more mindfulness to your day. Available for free on iTunes. Oprah Deepak Chopra's Meditation Master Trilogy. Chopra joined forces with Oprah Winfrey on a series of 21-day online meditation challenges, which have attracted nearly 2 million participants. Now, they have made all 3 of their challenges on the subjects of desire and destiny, perfect health, and miraculous relationships available through Oprah and Deepak's Meditation Master Trilogy, a gift set containing 66 audio meditations and an interactive journal. Available for $99 on chopracentermeditation.com/store. Calm.com. Watch waves crashing, brooks babbling, snow falling, and the sun setting while you enjoy a short, timed meditation without ever leaving your desk. Calm.com is also available in app form. Available for free on Calm.com and free download for iPhone from the App Store. Do Nothing for 2 Minutes. Do Nothing for 2 Minutes. .com, brought to you by the creators of Calm.com, is simply a full-screen video of waves crashing at sunset with a timer counting down for 2 minutes, along with the instructions. Just relax and look at the waves. Don't touch your mouse or keypad for 2 minutes. If you do, a bright red flashing fail comes up on the screen. Perhaps not the most zen reminder to go back to your break, but effective nonetheless. Available at www.donothingfor2minutes.com. Meditate app for Android. A comprehensive meditation timer and tracking device, Meditate app allows you to create plans and schedules, select meditations for particular days and times, and view charts detailing your past activity. Meditations can be timed and saved in one of three modes. Meditation with affirmation, and fall asleep mode, which fades out the sound of the meditation gradually. Available for Android, free, or $1.99 for the full version, from Google Play. Mental Workout. The Mental Workout app and website aim to help you cultivate mindfulness, sleep better, reduce your stress levels, and stay focused. Mental Workout's Mindfulness meditation app, designed by meditation teacher and psychotherapist Stephen Bodian, provides guided meditations and a timer for silent meditations. It also features an 8-week program for beginners, as well as inspirational talks and relaxation instructions. Beyond the Mindfulness meditation app, Mental Workout offers several programs for use on Mac, PC, iPhone, iPad, and Android, including apps that use mindfulness-based approaches to help you reduce stress, enhance sleep quality, and quit smoking. Programs available at varying costs at mentalworkout.com. Finding the space to lead. Meditations and Reflections. Janice Martirano, who brought meditation to General Mills and went on to found the Institute for Mindful Leadership, offers guidance on working and leading with persistence and compassion, and audio meditations and reflections to help you tap into the mindful leader within. The recordings include a kindness meditation, desk chair meditation, reflection on leadership principles, and more. Available for free from findingthespacetolead.com. Eckhart Tolle's Music to Quiet the Mind. If you'd rather listen to music than sit in silence, try Eckhart Tolle's Music to Quiet the Mind, available on Spotify. The album is a compilation of Eckhart Tolle's favorite songs to inspire serenity and stillness. Listen to the relaxing songs when you need to calm down at work, or press play when you get home at the end of the day and want to simply experience the power of now. Available for free streaming on Spotify. Appendix C. At your service, 11 sites for giving and volunteering. To help you get started volunteering or to take your giving to the next level, here is a list of some of my favorite sites connecting you to opportunities in your community and around the world, put together by our HuffPost Impact editor, Jessica Proa. smartvolunteer.org. With its motto, skills-based giving. It's not just for lawyers anymore. Smart Volunteer provides an easy way to donate your skills to nonprofits and other social enterprises looking for pro bono talent. The site emphasizes opportunities in technology, finance, marketing, and human resources. And if you're not able to volunteer on site, you can search for virtual volunteer opportunities, which require only a computer with an internet connection. allforgood.org. The largest database of volunteer opportunities online. All for Good is a great platform for finding ways to make a difference. Each month, the site hosts 150,000 local volunteer listings in major cities. All for Good also powers United We Serve and is part of Points of Light, the largest volunteer network in the world. Volunteer Match. Volunteermatch.org. With about 77,000 opportunities to give back, Volunteer Match connects you to causes and lets you tailor your searches according to what you care about most. You can simply type in what matters to you in the I Care About box. Besides listing opportunities, the site also offers tools that help organizations, from corporations to colleges, encourage employees and students to volunteer and invite others to participate. Almost 100,000 nonprofits use Volunteer Match for recruiting. Catchafire.org. Catchafire connects professionals with nonprofits and social good initiatives for pro bono work. If you love the arts, pitch in to help a nonprofit tell its story with words, pictures, and infographics. If you're a spreadsheet whiz, Catch a Fire will direct you to an organization in need of help with accounting or everyday administrative tasks. It also helps you track your impact, with a notice that tells you the monetary value of your volunteer work to the organization. ivolunteer.org. As a hub for stories about natural disasters and other events that have left people in desperate need, iVolunteer connects you with nonprofits and relief services in search of volunteers. The site's mission is rooted in the belief that each act of volunteering can inspire others to join the movement. Donors. Choose or go. DonorsChoose.org. Founded by Charles Best, a former social studies teacher, Donors Choose helps you make an impact in classrooms around the country. Public school teachers post their requests, from laptops, Kindles, and cameras to jump ropes, art supplies, and storage containers, and you can choose a project that resonates with you and make a donation. Once a project reaches its goal, Donors Choose ships the materials to the school and then connects you directly with the teacher and students you've helped. Idealist.org. Idealist helps you find a job, an internship, or volunteer opportunity based on where you live, your schedule, and your interests. The site helps you get involved in your own community, updating you on ongoing volunteer opportunities, one-time asks from nonprofits, and events in your area. UN Volunteers, unv.org. The United Nations offers volunteer opportunities in two areas: development assistance and humanitarian and peacekeeping operations. If you want to make a difference but aren't able to travel around the world, you can sign up for online-only volunteering projects, from copy editing to drafting proposals for water and sanitation solutions. DoSomethingDoSomething.org. More than 2 million young people have found a cause and started their own volunteer projects through Do Something, one of the most popular giving platforms for millennials. Under the motto, "Make the world suck less," Do Something connects you with the resources you need to launch or join initiatives, such as collecting jeans for homeless youth or donating cell phones to domestic abuse survivors. Volunteer.gov. If you're a roll-up-your-sleeves type of person, check out volunteer.gov, a listing of natural and cultural resource service projects with government agencies, including the National Park Service, Geological Survey, and Forest Service. Opportunities range from cleaning debris from beaches to helping the Army Corps of Engineers protect bald eagle nests. Universal Giving. Universalgiving.org. If you want to make a difference and travel at the same time, Universal Giving will connect you with opportunities in more than 100 countries. Search by category or location to find projects that Universal Giving has vetted, such as helping to build a health clinic in Kenya, volunteering at an orphanage in Vietnam, or teaching English in Italy. Acknowledgements. Throughout 2013, the third metric became a bigger and bigger part of my life, leading to my commencement speech at Smith, our first Third Metric conference, held in my apartment in New York, and many Third Metric editorial initiatives on HuffPost across all of our international editions. But when Richard Pine, my great friend and longtime agent, called me with the idea of writing a book about it, I said no, reminding him of my pledge to him, myself, my children, never to write another book. And then he called again, and again, and again. Sometimes a good agent has to sell the book to the author first. Finally, I said yes. Perhaps he caught me on a day when I hadn't had enough sleep. So my first thanks go to Richard. This is our 7th book together, and my 14th book. It definitely feels like the surprise baby you never thought you were going to have. And I'm grateful for all his guidance as well as his absolute refusal to take no for an answer. Thrive is both deeply personal and based on an enormous amount of research that has resulted in 46 pages of endnotes. My deep thanks and gratitude go to Zishan Alim, Tom Dan, and Brian Levin for their commitment and dedication to every detail in getting the book to press. Many thanks also to Marcos Saldivar and Anna McGrady for all their help with fact-checking, copy editing, and sourcing. I'm profoundly grateful to my editor Roger Scholl for his superb editing of the book, including constantly encouraging me to add more of my own personal experiences. Thank you also to Ed Faulkner, my UK editor at Random House, for all his insightful edits. including making sure that my examples and statistics were international and not just United States-centric. My deep thanks go to Tina Constable, the publisher of the Crown Archetype Group, for so passionately believing in the book's central ideas and for her unflagging support in every aspect of its publication. To Maya Mavji, president of the Crown Publishing Group, editor-in-chief Mauro De Preda, director of publicity Tammy Blake, and editorial director of the Harmony imprint Diana Baroni. I'm also so grateful to Trisha Weigel, senior production editor, who worked tirelessly under a very tight schedule to ensure that the copy editing, proofreading, and voluminous endnotes were held to the highest standards. To Michael Nagan for the book's beautiful design. To Derek Reed, editorial assistant to Roger Scholl, who followed up on every detail and made sure the trains ran on time. And to the entire Crown sales force for all they've done to ensure the book makes it into the hands of readers across the country. And special thanks to Crown's Director of Marketing, Meredith McGuinness, for all the creativity she brought to the book's publication, and to Penny Simon for all her enthusiasm and hard work in ensuring that the book was not only written, but read. My gratitude also goes to Stephen Sherrill and Roy Sekoff, who were indispensable to the writing of this book. Stephen pored over each and every draft and greatly improved all of them, and Roy, despite all the demands of running HuffPost Live, found the time, violating Thrive's sleep rules, to do a masterful pass of the final manuscript. And many thanks to Gregory Beyer, John Montorio, and Jimmy Soni for all their great edits and insights. To Carolyn Gregoire and Jessica Proy for compiling the focus, meditation, and volunteering tools, apps, and resources that I have included in the appendix. And to Kirsten Schomburg for helping us with translations from source material in German. In writing this book, I drew on the wisdom and important research of many academics. I'm particularly grateful to Richard Davidson, professor of psychiatry at the University of Wisconsin, Mark Williams, professor of clinical psychology at Oxford, John Kabat-Zinn, founding director of the Stress Reduction Clinic and the Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, and Adam Grant, professor of management at the Wharton School and author of Give and Take. I'm deeply grateful to Sheryl Sandberg for reading an early draft of the manuscript and not only give me key suggestions but actually sending me line-by-line edits, including a much better structure for the epilogue. I'm also grateful to Howard Schultz for all his feedback, including suggesting I use the story of Icarus as the perfect metaphor for modern burnout. And many thanks to Ellen Goodman, who generously offered her insights on many topics, especially death, which is the subject of the important conversation project she has launched. And to Susan Kane for reading the manuscript and giving me her always insightful comments. Special thanks to Paul Kay for all his wisdom and unwavering support in helping me live a third metric life, and to Patricia Fitzgerald for sharing her knowledge about integrative health as well as her enthusiasm and passion for this project. My love and deep thanks to my friends who read early drafts and offered thoughts. Willow Bay, Faith Bethelard, Nicholas Bergruin, Kimberly Brooks, Mika Brzezinski, Lori David, Gail Gross, Jackie Kelly, Fran Lasker, Cindy Leave, Kelly Meyer, Jacqueline Novogratz, Heather Reisman, Jan Shepard, Timothea Stewart, and Joan Witkowski. Thank you to Jeff Swafford, Paula Cabe, Herbie Ziskind, and Horatio Fabiano for all their support. And a very special thanks to the great team that was responsible for bringing the book to many countries around the world: Amanda Schumacher, Lindsay Blessing, Jordan Freeman, and Lena Auerbach. This is my first book that was read at the manuscript stage by both my daughters, Christina and Isabella. I'm grateful for their suggestions and corrections, as well as for the incredible source of love and joy they are in my life. Thank you also to my ex-husband Michael, who read the manuscript while we were on our family Christmas vacation. And finally, I want to thank my sister Agapi, who, read every draft, reminded me of stories I had forgotten, and brought her amazing spirit to the journey of completing this book, as she has always brought it to the journey of our lives together. The book is dedicated to our mother, Ellie, who was its inspiration and who lived a third metric life long before it had a name.